I sat on the edge of my couch, wrapped in an old fleece blanket that still smelled faintly of cinnamon from last year. The room was quiet, lit only by the soft blink of dollar store string lights draped over the miniature pine tree I'd dragged up the stairs myself. It wasn't much 3 feet tall, leaning slightly left, decorated with mismatched ornaments I'd collected from thrift bins over the years, but it was mine. And tonight, it was the only light in the room. Outside, I could hear muffled laughter from the neighboring apartment. Clinking glasses, bursts of joy. Someone was playing an off-key version of Silent Night on a piano. I tried to smile to pretend it didn't sting. But it did. It always did. This was the 3rd Christmas in a row without a call, a text, or even a passive-aggressive holiday card from my family. The first year, they blamed a scheduling mix-up. The second, they said they assumed I was busy and didn't want to pressure me. But this year, they didn't bother with excuses. Just silence. Until my phone buzzed. For a split second, my heart lifted. Maybe it was a last-minute "we're thinking of you" message. Maybe someone remembered. But when I picked it up, all I saw was a subject line "Shared Family Holiday Costs," breakdown attached, and a PDF file. I tapped it open. At the top, in bold calibri, it read, "Holiday Yacht Party, Shared Family Expenses. Total $6,100 split 3 ways. My share $3,050. I blinked. Was this a joke? I scrolled down looking for any hint of sarcasm. A winking emoji, a "just kidding." Nothing. Just bullet points catering dock fees open bar and a polite reminder to transfer payment to my father's bank account by January 5th. I hadn't even known there was a yacht party. I hadn't been invited. Not a text, not a mention. Nothing. But they remembered me when it was time to settle the bill. My stomach twisted. I set the phone down and looked back at my little tree. Its lights kept blinking warm and steady as if the world hadn't shifted in that one moment. I used to love Christmas. Used to bake with Mom, argue with Braxton over what movie to watch. He wanted action. I wanted something sentimental. Dad would wrestle with tangled lights and pretend to complain. We were loud, messy, but together. Now they had a yacht, and I had a bill. I stared at that invoice until the numbers blurred. Not even a greeting, just a request for money as if I were some disconnected relative whose only value was financial. I leaned back against the couch, my throat tightening. They hadn't set a place for me at the table, but they'd carved out a space for my share of the expenses, and somehow that said everything. I stared at the blinking lights on the tree, but all I could see was the number on the invoice, $3,050. That wasn't just a bill, it was a memory dragged out of the quiet corners I'd tried to seal off. A reminder of every time they'd overlooked me and how I'd let them. Growing up, my dad used to call me the independent one. He said it like a badge of honor, as if I'd won something by not needing help. He'd mention it at cookouts and holiday letters whenever relatives came around. "Corinne's always been the independent one. Handles herself." I used to smile when he said it, thinking it meant he was proud. But over time, it stopped sounding like pride and started feeling like a door quietly closing. It meant I didn't need attention, didn't need support, didn't need celebration. It gave them permission to leave me off the group texts, to assume I'd be fine without the invite, the help, the hug. And I was, until I wasn't. Braxton, on the other hand, didn't have to earn affection. It was just given. He could miss curfew crash Mom's car, forget birthdays, and still be the son we all revolved around. He's just figuring things out, they'd say. Or worse, that's just Brax. Meanwhile, I got lectures for missing one chore or bringing home an A instead of an A+. Even now, they were still propping him up. That yacht party wasn't just a celebration, it was a coronation. He'd landed some regional manager title at a property firm, and they threw him a private cruise to mark the occasion. What they didn't say, what he definitely didn't say, was that 3 months ago he'd panicked over the application. He'd sent me his 2-page resume in shambles full of typos and half-sentences. "I don't think I'm qualified," he'd said over the phone, voice low, like he was afraid of being found out. "It's out of my league." So I stayed up 2 nights reworking it. I rewrote entire sections, polished the formatting, crafted a cover letter from scratch. I even walked him through common interview questions, pretending I didn't notice how much he leaned on me. He got the job, then the boat, then the invoice for me. No thank you text, no shout out, not even a private message. And now I owed $3,000 for the party I helped make possible without even realizing it. That was the worst part. Not the money, not even the exclusion. It was knowing I had poured effort into someone who wouldn't have done the same for me, who didn't even think to try. They kept calling me the independent one, but what they really meant was disposable. And maybe for the first time in my life, I was ready to stop wearing that label like it meant I was okay, because I wasn't. Not anymore. I stared at the invoice one last time, then opened my banking app. I didn't hesitate. I typed in my father's account details, entered $1 hour, and wrote in the memo line, Santa skipped me too. No explanation, no venom. Just the kind of message someone might laugh at if they weren't busy realizing what it really meant. I hit send. The screen flashed, transfer complete. And just like that, I felt something unstick in my chest. Not relief exactly, but a shift. Like I had finally said something I'd been swallowing for years. I set my phone down, stood up, and walked over to my tiny kitchen table, opening my laptop. It was time. The Netflix account, mine. Hulu, mine. Spotify Premium. You guessed it. Amazon Prime, HBO, Disney Plus, all under my name. I'd added family members over the years without thinking. It had always been easier to just include them than to hear complaints or guilt-tripped excuses. But not tonight. I went through each account methodically. Remove user, change password, log out on all devices, confirm. I didn't feel powerful. I didn't feel petty either. I felt clean, like finally washing off a layer of invisible dust that had been clinging to me since I was old enough to pick up their slack without asking. Next, the family phone plan. I'd been paying for most of it for the last 4 years. Somehow, it had become easier for everyone to just keep it that way. We'll Venmo you, they said, until they didn't. The last payment from my dad had come 11 months ago. I opened the mobile carrier's portal and removed their lines, one by one. Then came the credit cards. 2 of them were in my name, both handed over to my parents for emergencies. I should have canceled them a long time ago, but there was always some reason not to. What if they needed it? What if it caused a scene? What if it made me seem ungrateful? Now, I didn't care. I froze both accounts and submitted requests for new cards with new numbers. No one else would touch my name again without my permission. By the time I closed my laptop, it was past midnight. The apartment was quiet, still glowing from the little tree in the corner. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even sad. I was just done. Done being convenient. Done being quiet. Done being the one who gave because it was expected. That night, I didn't sleep easily, but for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I owed anyone anything. By morning, the messages had already started. The first one came from my mom. Corinne, something's wrong with the Netflix account. Keep saying it's unavailable. Did you change something? No greeting, no Merry Christmas, just concern about being logged out of a screen. I didn't answer. Next came a string of missed calls from my dad. Then a voicemail, half gruff and half confused. I think there's a billing error with the phone plan. Call me back so we can sort it out. I deleted it without listening to the rest. Then the family group chat lit up. Braxton. Okay. What's going on? Why can't I get into Amazon? Mom, everything's down. Did the cards expire? Braxton again? Pretty immature Corinne. You could have just said something instead of being petty. That one made me stop. Immature. Petty. As if what I'd done was a tantrum. As if my silence and boundaries were childish instead of overdue. I scrolled back through the chat history. Weeks of jokes, plans, and photos I was never included in. Celebrations I never knew about. Comments I hadn't responded to because they were never meant for me. They were meant for each other. I was just there, tagged when needed. Quiet. Convenient. And now, suddenly, I mattered because they couldn't binge-watch shows or get free shipping. I didn't respond, not because I couldn't, but because there was nothing to say that wouldn't be twisted into more guilt. No one asked if I was okay. No one asked where I'd been, how I was spending the holidays, or whether I needed anything. It was all what happened to our perks, our access, our conveniences. They didn't miss me. They missed what I gave them. I muted the chat and turned off notifications. The silence that followed felt like the first real gift I'd gotten in years. It was never about family. Not really. It was about what I could offer, what I could fix, what I could cover without complaint. And now that I had unplugged the wires holding up the illusion, they were scrambling, not because I was gone, but because their comfort had gone with me. It was the clearest they had ever spoken without saying a word. Around noon, my phone rang with an unknown number. For a second, I considered ignoring it, assuming it was just another robocall or a last-ditch attempt from someone trying to get through. But something made me answer. "Hi, this is Erica from Bank Ridge Credit Union's fraud department." "Is this Corinne Albright?" I confirmed, cautious. "We've received a report regarding potential unauthorized activity on 2 credit cards registered under your name. Do you have a few minutes to go over some account details?" I closed my eyes for a beat. "Of course." "Yes, I do," I said, my voice steady. She began listing off the accounts I'd frozen 2 nights before, the ones I'd opened years ago for emergencies, the same ones my father had used for gas groceries and the occasional dinner out that somehow turned into regular use. There was a report of fraudulent access on both accounts, Erica said. The caller claimed they'd been locked out of funds they were authorized to use. I took a breath. "There's no fraud," I said calmly. "I'm the account holder. No one else is on those cards." I froze them intentionally. A short silence. "And the people previously using the cards?" "My parents," I said. "They were using them without my consent. They knew the cards weren't theirs." I let it slide for too long. "That's over now." Another pause. I could hear typing on her end. "Understood," she said finally. "So, just to confirm, you're aware of all recent account changes and you authorize all of them?" "I do," I said. "There's no fraud here, just a family who mistook me for a doormat." I hadn't meant to say that last part out loud, but once it left my mouth, I didn't take it back. Erica let out a soft chuckle, not unkind. "I'll close the fraud report and make a note on the file." "Thank you," I said. "Take care of yourself, Corinne," she added before hanging up. I stared at my phone screen for a long moment afterward, feeling the echo of my own words. I hadn't yelled. I hadn't broken down. I'd just told the truth. And the strange thing was, it didn't feel like confrontation. It felt like freedom. They wanted the benefits of my name, my resources, my silence. But now they had to deal with something unfamiliar, me unafraid to be heard. After the call with the bank, I didn't bother checking the group chat again. The notifications kept coming, but I let them pile up. I knew what they'd say before even reading them, confusion masquerading as concern, followed by thinly veiled guilt trips wrapped in the word family. I didn't reply. Not out of spite, not even out of anger. I was just done. For the first time in years, I let the silence grow without rushing to fill it. I didn't explain myself. I didn't soften the edges of their discomfort. I stopped managing their emotions like it was my unpaid job. It was strange at first, the quiet, the absence of expectation. No calls asking for favors, no sudden bills forwarded to my inbox, no small talk masking requests, just stillness. And then, without warning, New Year's Eve arrived. I didn't have plans. I didn't make any. But around 7, I put on a sweater I loved and walked to a small restaurant downtown. Nothing fancy, just warm lighting and the hum of soft music. I asked for a table by the window. The waiter brought me a menu and didn't blink at the fact that I was alone. I ordered a glass of red wine, a ribeye, and mashed potatoes. The meal came hot and unhurried. I didn't rush through it. I didn't check my phone. I didn't wonder what they were doing or if they were wondering about me. I just ate. And when midnight came and the restaurant filled with gentle cheers and clinking glasses, I raised mine quietly. No one toasted with me. No one needed to, because I wasn't toasting the year ahead. I was honoring the part of me that had finally stopped begging to belong. For so long I had accepted scraps, emotional leftovers, last-minute invites if I was lucky, always the one who understood, the one who bent so others wouldn't have to. But tonight I had chosen myself, not in rebellion, not to make a point, Just because I was tired of waiting to be seen by people who only looked for me when they needed something. I paid the bill, left a generous tip, and stepped outside into the cold, crisp air. The streets shimmered with celebration, but I didn't feel left out. For once, I wasn't hoping for a text that wouldn't come. I had finally shown up for me. The email came the second week of January. Subject line: "We need to talk." I almost deleted it without opening, but something in me wanted to know what version of the story he was trying to tell. I clicked. The message wasn't long, but it was careful, every sentence trimmed to sound concerned without admitting anything. He said he'd noticed some changes, that things seemed tense lately. Then came the kicker. Family sticks together even when things get hard. We should never forget that. There it was, wrapped in sentiment, rolled in nostalgia, but hollow. He didn't mention the yacht party, the invoice, the fraud report. He didn't say sorry. He didn't ask how I was. Just implied that I had broken something I was supposed to keep intact. I stared at his message for a long time before hitting reply. I didn't explain. I didn't defend. I typed 4 words. "So why didn't you?" That was it. No greeting, no signature. Just a mirror held up to his carefully crafted guilt. I hit send and closed my laptop. I didn't need to wait for a response. I knew one wouldn't come, not one with honesty anyway. They had spent years calling me strong, resilient, the one who holds it all together. But strength had become their permission slip to forget me. To skip inviting me, skip thanking me, skip showing up. Now I had said the one thing they'd never expected to hear. I had asked the question that didn't come with an easy answer. One that cut past the excuses and politeness and landed exactly where it hurt. I didn't need an apology. I needed them to sit in the silence they created, the one they'd filled with my usefulness but never my presence. The next day, Braxton texted, "You're tearing this family apart. How can you do this to us? You owe us more than this." I read it once and didn't respond. He hadn't asked why I was hurt. He hadn't even acknowledged it. All he saw was the break in the system that had always benefited him. But I wasn't patching it up anymore. I wasn't the fixer, the buffer, the bridge. I was the question they didn't want to answer. And that finally was enough. I spent the next few weeks quietly rebuilding my life, this time with walls they couldn't reach through. I opened new bank accounts with passwords only I knew, requested new cards, changed every billing address and login detail. I called the phone company and started a new plan just for me. No shared lines, no quiet leeches in the background. I updated subscriptions one by one, attaching them to a fresh email I'd never once given to my family. It wasn't about revenge. It was about release. With every account I reclaimed, I felt something uncoil in my chest, like I was peeling off layers of responsibility I'd never agreed to carry in the first place. No more emergency calls asking me to fix things. No more forgotten birthdays that I still sent gifts for. No more being the only one who remembered details they never bothered to write down. The weight they'd dropped on me for years, I was finally setting it down. My apartment felt different now. Not bigger, not cleaner, just lighter. I started lighting candles again, made dinner for myself with more care than usual, even started sleeping through the night without checking my phone, half expecting some last-minute crisis only I could solve. They stopped messaging, or maybe they kept going and I just didn't look. I had muted every thread, deleted every shortcut. I didn't need to see more versions of their disappointment masquerading as concern. This year they didn't unwrap anything from me. No cards, no gift baskets ordered last minute to keep the peace. No quietly absorbed costs. What they got instead, without ceremony, without warning, was the realization that the daughter they overlooked was the one who had been holding the whole system together, and now she was gone. Not out of rage, not with slammed doors or shouted accusations, just gone. They thought I was strong because I never made demands, because I showed up without being asked, because I forgave without being acknowledged. But the truth was, I wasn't strong. I was just exhausted, and the difference was everything. They didn't lose the problem child. they lost the person who made everything work in the background, the person they assumed would always be there because she always had been. But maybe I'd just been first. First to be forgotten. First to be used. And now finally, first to walk away.